Hello, people. Welcome back to another video by your good friend Chad Marco, the Big Anarchy. Make sure you guys check out my other social media, etc., etc. So, last week I put out the Blackcel Experience video, and we got quite a lot of comments. So I figured that I would respond to some of the more insightful uh comments, do a comments video. You guys know how I do whenever there's like a popular video. I do a direct response video for that. And I noticed that there were a lot of people who just discovered me and my channel, and that's always worrisome for me, because I feel like when people discover you based on one video, they get the idea that that's just who you are. They haven't seen like the full journey of who I am, and the full spectrum of what I'm about. And one thing I noticed, even though I appreciated it, people would give me really good advice, but I don't think they realize that I'm not like your typical incel type of guy. I would say I'm the type that was weird and goofy. Goof is gonna come up a lot in this video. But I embraced it and found happiness without feeling the need to, validate myself through sex and women. But I think because I tend to be so self-deprecating about it, people tend to think like it's a bad thing. And so they give advice like I'm gonna take it. Right. But I appreciate it all the same. But we got some great comments, and I'm just going to respond. Again, this is a lot of good feedback. A lot of my fellow African Americans, and saw some guys, some girls. So I really appreciate the feedback. Let's get right into it. So the first comment, Gil Gandalf the Black says, "Start talking to white women. They respect character and personality. White women treated me the best, and my first girlfriend was white. Even without sex, they respect intelligence more. Women are women, yes, but black women are kind of terrible, impossible if you are a nerd." Now, I'm the type where I don't discriminate. If I happen to find myself attracted to a white woman or a Hispanic, whatever the case may be, then I'm gonna go for it. I definitely have my preferences. Recently, I've really been into black women, though. I can't even lie. Like, I'm just really in love with black women these days. So I hope that if I ever do get a girlfriend, it ideally would be with a black woman that I could connect with. But I definitely see what he's saying. And I have a whole video coming up about this. But I noticed this even at work, with this older black woman I work with versus this older white woman. And the older black woman, we're cool, we get along, but she has like that black woman type attitude. And the white woman, she is so nice. Like, she she's so sweet towards me. Now, she got a crazy side, and I've seen it, but whenever me and her communicate, it's always cool. She's so nice. And like, I think that's really the trait that unfortunately a lot of black women are missing. They seem to be really attached to their communication style of being more like aggressive, and they don't understand that that's just not really attractive to us. There are a lot of black men that'll tolerate it, but I'm definitely not one of them. I hate that shit. So next, kind of some view says, first off, get out of your parents' house ASAP. Second, start going out to places you think you have luck finding not only girls but make friends at. Had some luck bonding at comic book stores and board game places where I hung with the players mid-game. University visits could be a good start too. Nothing wrong with being an atypical black. It'll help if you come off as manly, at least for a while at first, though. So he's basically saying, go to the right type of environment, which I think would help if I was ever looking for a girlfriend. I think a nerdy guy like me, I should be at an anime con, the locals for fighting game tournaments or fighting game players, places like that where I can meet more like-minded people. I've always tended to be more introverted, and like when I do go out, it's usually like just to the store or going running and whatnot. I am very active, but running is kind of a solitary activity unless you're doing like marathons or mini marathons or something like that, and that's not really my thing. I do go to the gym, but the gym is one of those places where girls are really on high alert for guys trying to talk to me. I made whole videos talking about why you shouldn't ask girls out at the gym, so that's a no-go. Now the funny thing about the gym though is that I get a lot of attention from guys because guys, they see like the intensity of my workouts, and they always compliment my big ass calf muscles. But I get a lot of attention from guys, but I don't get any attention from girls as far as like what I've noticed. I've noticed girls being like giggly and weird around me and shit, but for the most part, I haven't got any positive attention from girls at the gym. But guys are very nice and friendly, to say the least. But yeah, I think I'll have to go to places like what he mentioned there. So Filmboy Jackal, that name. He says, nah, trust me, suburbs ain't too much better. It is better though. And then he says, in the black community, fashion is dependent on price tag, not how it actually looks. Well, yeah, it's people tend to attribute the price tag to the quality. It's kind of like what those, I think they call them Crown Heart jeans or something, and they cost like $10,000 a pair. I mean, if you would have told me those jeans cost $200 or $100 or $50, I would have said, yeah, that looks about right. But they're $10,000. Yeah, and I think that's really one of the bad things about the black community is that our attachment, well, not me personally, but a lot of people's attachments like name brands and stuff like that, and they end up spending more money on things that just really aren't worth it beyond just the status of it. And that's just one of those things where I'm not really into stuff like that. I don't buy things like, oh, this is expensive, so this will make me look cool. But that's the disadvantage where I'm from because, those are the type of things that some girls are really looking out for. And even guys, they appreciate other guys that are into those. And I'm not saying that to bash people who are into it. We all have our interests. I'm just saying I'm not into spending a lot of money on things just for a name brand or something like that. And so the Don says, just be yourself and work on stuff that can enhance your value, not just money wise, but looks. Well, as far as looks, I don't have it in terms of like fashion, but I work out a lot, and that's one of the most common advice that guys might get is, hit the gym, get strong, get big and all that. But man, I've been on that. I've been on that. And the thing that I've learned, being someone who's in very good shape, very fit, and I know that I've crossed that threshold into being like impressively fit, because like I said, a lot of guys in the gym, they give me compliments and they think like that, like I'm an athlete or something. Like people have thought I was a football player or a boxer or something. Like, dude, I just work out. So I know that I put the work in to have like a certain look of athleticism. But what I've learned though is like, again, I'm not gonna say girls don't give a fuck about that, but it's not enough to make it so girls are gonna really just be giving you attention. At least not in my case. Maybe I don't have the height, maybe something is off, but I know I put in the work because I get the compliments and the recognition from other men, and things like that. Like even one of the guys that gave me compliments at the gym, he used to be Mr. New Jersey. He was a bodybuilder in his prime. He's an older guy, and he even gave me props. So I know I'm putting in the work, but like I said, girls, man, I'm telling you, hoflation is bad. Like just being fit is not enough. It's not enough to really change things. Like I feel like you really got to be willing to aggressively pursue women. Like it's just having the look is not going to be enough in of itself. And so Magnus Insomnium says, What kind of loser thinks you're hard only if you smoke or drink to get through life? Nah, that's weak if someone comes at you for being sober. So that was when I was telling the story about how, my good friend Kayla was laughing at me because I said that, for my lunch break or when I'm resting at work, I eat candy instead of smoking and whatnot. And she thought that was soft. But I explained that to her, that's one of the negative aspects of our culture, that in our culture, we think it's cool the more weed that you can smoke, being able to smoke a bunch of blunts or being able to drink a lot and turning up. And I'm not against having that kind of fun. I'm just saying that's not really for me. I used to smoke weed, but I don't do that anymore. But like I said, that's part of our culture where it's seen as cool to be able to turn up and do a lot of drugs or whatever the case may be. But I just look at things differently. For me, when I'm on my lunch break, I'll go to the parking lot and be doing push-ups and working out, or at the very least just eating a little snack or something. I'm not getting high in the car, even though that's fine if people want to do that. But for me, like, what I think is hard or cool is, the things I do in terms of like fitness, running miles and then going to the gym, working out hard, or going to work while fasting, haven't eaten anything in 12 hours, 14 hours, and then going to the gym. That's what I think is hard. So, it's one of those things where I just feel like as Black people, we got to really question certain aspects of our culture and what's cool, because I think some of it is actually kind of self-destructive, or we think the wrong things are cool. We think drugs are cool. We think, carrying guns and getting involved in like the street life and crime. We think that's cool. And I think we got to reevaluate a lot of that shit. And so Keyshawn Jones says the Black women don't like goofy guys is straight cap. You probably overdo it. But see, right there, we got to stop, right? Black women don't like goofy guys is cap. But then you're probably overdoing. So, and see, this is kind of the problem with dealing with women that I've noticed, though, is like, you got to find this perfect sweet spot for everything. It's like, you can't be too nice, but you can't be too much of an asshole. You can't be too goofy, but you can't be too stoic. It's like, dude, I'm being myself, and I'm not going to resonate with certain types of people. And that's just what it is. They might think it's too much, but for me, that's just who I am. So, but that's what I always hated that about when people give you advice in terms of women. Like, you gotta you gotta hit like that perfect sweet spot with everything that you do. I'm just like, fuck it, bro. If they don't like it, fuck it. But let's continue. Overdo it. You may not be their particular type, which is fine, but that's not all or majority of Black women. Long as you be yourself and stay true to you, people will fuck with you. And with this clothes shit is also cap. Most Black people don't wear Jordan. Bruh, get out of here. Don't wear Jordans and high brand fashion all the time. You don't dress like that to be acceptable, especially in the Black community. I promise you, no one gives a fuck about what. That's bullshit, bro. That is, I'm telling you, that's straight bull. I gotta intervene here, because that was one of the issues that I had growing up in school. People made fun of the shoes that I wore, the clothes I had on. There was that there. I mean, dude, there is a known phenomenon of people being killed and robbed for like starter jackets and Jordans. It's definitely an obsession with fashion in the Black community. And again, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. Now, when it gets to the point where motherfuckers getting robbed and shit over some shoes, that's terrible. But come on, bro. Where are you from to where you've never experienced that? Or you've never seen that? I don't give a fuck. I know I don't give a fuck, but certainly other people give a fuck about fashion. Because either with people that I hung around with or people that I've associated with, I've noticed that, like, and this is something that I always found weird, I couldn't relate to. Like, I would be around people that could tell me what shoes somebody else had on or something, or was judging them. And whenever I would hear it, I'd be like, what? Like, how did you even like notice what shoes somebody got on? Like, why did I'm the embodiment of not giving a fuck about that shit. Because when people would tell me, I'd be like, how did you notice the shoes this nigga had on? I don't give a fuck. How are you even like, that's something that I never understood. But like I said, I was a target of that growing up. That's how I know, like, that's some real shit. But yeah, that's bullshit, bro. If you're not the best looking, for example, get your hair cut and keep it cut, dress nice. And see, that's what I'm saying. Nobody gives a fuck, but you're telling me to get my hair cut, but you're telling me to dress nice. So it's like you are aware that these things matter, but you're trying to downplay it. I mean, you gotta, come on, bro, look at what you're typing and what you're saying here. It's like you're saying one thing, but then you're contradicting it in the same paragraph. The fact is, these things do matter, bro. Most black women do not like goofy guys. They don't like goofy. That's why goofy is an insult. Girls care about fashion and what you wear and how you dress and what, just look at the damn Pop the Balloon show. They'll pop the balloon on niggas just because they got on like the pants too tight or it's too baggy, the shirt too red. Right? It's a snapback instead of a fitted. So, Adrienne, I don't know how to say that. Let me just say that there's nothing wrong with you. You sound like a genuinely nice person, and the people who are in your circle truly don't have your best interest at heart. You should never have to change yourself, let alone move to a different neighborhood just to find a girl you like. Surround yourself with interests and try not to look at everything from a negative perspective. If you surround yourself with the things you like, a girl would notice and would take a liking to you. Trust me, the last thing on a real girl's mind is what you're wearing and how you speak. The people I'm around are constantly worried about what they're wearing and how they speak, and I find it sad that they all feel the need to change that just to fit in. You're not an incel for not fitting in with the standards that are in the hood. You are normal. I have no idea where you got the idea that girls don't like goofy guys. They're the best type of dude, really. Get yourself out there, and that goes to anyone. And then Ice City says, cope, life is all about looks. Okay, now, in regards to my friends, I don't think they meant anything negative by what they were telling me. In fact, I think that for the most part, they were right. I think your environment does matter in terms of being able to attract women. It's like being a square and trying to fit that square into like a circle or something like that, or trying to fit it into a triangle. It's if you take a heavy metal guy and then he goes to the hip hop concert, probably not gonna have a lot of success attracting the women there. But if you take him and he's at the heavy metal place, or punk rock, or the fucking mosh pit, motherfuckers is doing it, he'll fit right in and probably find girls closer to his wavelength. But again, I don't think they mean anything negative by it. I think they just recognize that where we are, it's just not a good fit for my personality type. And that's something that I have to agree with them on. That I don't think that my location is a good fit. And like someone like me, I have to go to specific places where I'm going to meet like-minded people or something like that. And so, Chat Taki Bite said, who said black women don't like goofy guys? Every woman is not the same. Some of us love that. And then Rusty says, not goofy, maybe funny, goofy attractive guys. Man, I'm just saying, in my experience, that goofy has always kind of been seen as a negative. I've never seen black women in particular say that that's something that's good. To me, where I'm from, it seems like the street guy, the edgy guy, the roughneck is the ideal. Now, I know all women aren't the same, but just based on, again, my life experience and my anecdotal experience, that's what I've noticed, is that girls tend to be into that specific type of guy. I remember even years ago, I was talking to my niece who was becoming a teenager at the time. You know, young girls, they become a teenager, they start being interested in boys. And I remember I was trying to warn her. I was telling her, like, you know, one thing you make sure of, do not go out here and start fucking with them street dudes. I know you like NBA Youngboy and Lil Baby and all that, and so that's what you're gonna look for when you're at school or at wherever you are. But I'm telling you, that's not the way to go. I remember my niece, she looked at me like, ain't no way I'm not going for she looked at me like I was crazy or something when I told her that. And like I said, man, that's just something that I've noticed. It's just, I think that's the ideal, and I feel like the goofy archetype is really like the opposite of that, or close to the opposite of that. I'm not saying that there aren't girls that can like that, but I think that those girls are definitely going to be the minority, at least where I'm from. And so Slash Fan says, calling yourself a goofy is akin to calling yourself a clown. Ask yourself this: do you think anyone takes a clown serious? Well, see, this goes back to the whole idea of being yourself. Because the thing is, people always say, be yourself, be who you are. But the thing is, at the same time, also people try to fit you into like these neat little categories of what they think a man or a woman should be. You can't sit here and be like, well, be yourself, and then be like, well, you can't, you can't be that though. You can't, you know. And this is something that I've thought about myself, and that I recognize is that, you know, being a goofy type guy, yeah, some people are not gonna take me seriously. Some people will take that goofiness for weakness or whatever. And that was definitely something that I had to deal with growing up. You know, I was a target for people picking on me and trying to bully me because of that goofiness. And so I had to make a decision, you know, am I going to run away from who I am so I can avoid those problems? Or am I going to embrace who I am and just confront and deal with those problems as they come? And I chose to just embrace who I am. If someone don't want to take me serious, or they want to take my goofiness for weakness, so be it. I'm going to just confront it and deal with it, you know, like any other man would. You know, and definitely, you know, there have been situations where I had to check people or let it be known, hey, you crossed the line, or that's disrespectful. And then, you know, it is what it is. But I'm not going to run away from who I am just because it comes with certain problems. You know, like I said, that's the issue when people talk about being yourself. That's what comes with it. Sometimes being yourself means that people aren't going to respond to you the way you want them to every time. And so I accept that. Yes, some people not going to take me serious, but at the same time, when I meet those people that I resonate with, when I meet those people that actually fuck with me and like me, it makes it all worth it, because it's like it's a perfect fit, you know, and I'm living my life in perfect harmony with who I am down to my soul. So I accept that shit. People don't, fine, but I'm not running away from the battles and the problems that come with being who I am. To me, that's the coward shit. And that's why it's so hard to be yourself, because people don't want to deal with that shit. People don't want to deal with the problems that come with being who they really are, so they run away from it. I embrace it and I confront that shit. So let people think what they want to about me. I'm gonna just keep being me. And so Dylan James says, I've never been able to dress well as far as having drip or being stylish, but I've always had muscles. Decent grooming, dreads, tattoos, facial hair. Basically, if you got the important stuff, which is your body and grooming together, they'll buy you clothes because they want to dress you. You're a Ken doll to them. Let me add this. I'm about to get some gold teeth at the bottom also. But nothing I've done as far as my appearance goes has ever been to please women. I truly love how I put myself together. I look this way for my own reasons outside of women. I was raised on a farm. I got cowboy tattoos. I cut my dreads off when I feel like it. Done it twice. Just be the best you. And that's exactly how I feel. I've never done anything for the express purpose of trying to attract women or trying to please women. Everything that I've done, I did it for me. I did it because I wanted to do it. Now, you're a little bit luckier because your authentic self probably has more to do with things that girls are into. And I feel like my authentic self is just not, who I am is just more on the weird side, kind of different, off brand and shit like that. And again, just where I'm from, girls don't tend to be into that. But I think that me and you kind of have the same attitude. I just think that your authentic self is probably just more in line with what girls are into. Again, tattoos and the grill. Like I said, the way I dress, the things I like, even here, fucking initial D anime lanyard, right? That's my interest in anime. So everything that I do is, based on what I want to do and what I'm interested in. But unfortunately, if you want to look at it like that, what I want to do tends to not line up with what girls like. And so Idol Neat, I like that name. Damn, black on the outside. Oh, that's actually on the Oreo. Yeah, same thing. Black on the outside, but feeling like a white boy on the inside, caught in the middle of two worlds that never seem to meet. Chad Marco, feeling like an Oreo in the bag, but can't taste the sweets. Oh man, that's great. I had to comment on that because it fucking rhymed. And so Emilio says black women are probably some of the most attractive women in the world. Yes. But I can't deny it. They are normies a lot of the time. It's always a dude with mainstream appeal, either a hood dude, athlete, or dude that's disloyal. To an extent, you really do have to be a normie or semi-normie to have success with any woman. Mostly because women like a man they can somewhat relate to and has common interest with her. A lot of times, it may not even be that you're physically unattractive. Your hobbies and interests just aren't attractive to her. As men, we got to stop living just to get women and be accepted by them. There's so much more out here to enjoy in life. Your desire for a woman is probably lack of hobby and boredom 9 times out of 10. Dude, you're preaching to the choir over here. I've mastered that. My whole life has been just, doing what I want to do, embracing my interests and my hobbies, regardless of what men think about it, what women think about it. That's always been, the type of time that I'm on. But like you said before, man, I think it's really difficult to find women who aren't, the normie type. And I could be wrong about this. I hate, because I kind of don't want to say it, but this is just my personal experience. The coolest girls that I've met have all been like less attractive. And I feel like what happens is with more attractive women, I think they just tend to be more normie because they have easy access to that world and the benefits that come with being an attractive woman, where guys want to buy you stuff, they want to fly you out, they compliment you. Like, and it's not even like a bad thing. I just think that they live so much in terms of the world of socializing. I put it like that, to where they don't have a need to sit there and binge watch anime or play video games and shit like that, because they can go out on dates every week and get flown out and go traveling and shit like that. And I think that's part of what kind of creates a disconnect between girls like that and girls and guys like myself, is that, we tend to be more into like introverted, homely type activities, and they tend to be more into just going out to the world and actually like doing like fun shit that with other people and what. I think that's at least part of it, because I've just noticed that the coolest girls I've ever met were always kind of like less attractive, and so they invested more of their time into like creative hobbies or more niche, obscure hobbies and things like that the average person might not be into. I just think that's part of it. And so Ed Reglo says, yo, I relate. Spent 6 years in Robeson County going through hell. You either got to conform to what women want out there or just move to a bigger city, from my experience. And like I said in the video, I think that's part of the problem with my situation, just being in a small city where, the ideal type of guy just tends to be street guy, baller, cool guy, and whatnot. Now, again, it's pockets of weirdos just about anywhere. But again, I just feel like someone like me probably got to go to a bigger city if I was really concerned about getting a girlfriend. Again, that's never been a big priority for me. I just kind of, like to talk about it. And so Shadow Man says, been going through this my whole life, but it gets better. I've always been the black sheep in my black family due to my love of anime, experimental music, and horror movies. I love horror movies. It's true that most black women don't find black men attractive unless they are trendy or have a bit of an edge to them. But there are a few out there, they're just extremely hard to find. I hate to say it, but men like us usually end up with white or Hispanic women due to our interests. Your environment also does play a huge role in your success with women when it comes to guys like us. Places like Austin, Texas love quirky black guys. And then Lakers Paradise says, this comment is my sign to move to Austin, Texas. Thank you. But yeah, in my experience, girls like that just tend to be kind of rare. Like I said in the video, the girl that I met at the gym, it was such a cool experience talking to her. And it was so easy to talk to her. Like we were just like, boom, bam, bam, like just different subjects, and we could relate to each other. I was just like, damn. And with most girls, like I said, I just feel like there's kind of a disconnect. And even though, to be fair, I don't really interact with a lot of women anyway, so that might be part of it too. But just when I have, it always felt like there was just something like we weren't really connecting or clicking. But meeting a girl that you do click with, that you do connect with, it's really like a special, it's really something special. And so at the very least, I know that it exists. I know that it's something that I can find, is out there. But damn, it's really like finding a unicorn, it seems like. And so Khalil Simpson says, in the video, you said that parents will be disappointed that their kids cannot get partners. But one thing parents never taught you on how to get partners, and complain that you don't have partners. And see, that's something that I've talked about quite a bit with a friend of mine. It's like, unfortunately, a lot of us, we're not given like teachings and guidance on how to really deal with, our awakening sexuality, going through puberty, actually like different things to look out for if we do start to be sexually active or dating. As a man, what type of women to look out for, red flags. Like I remember I was having a conversation with my mom, and I asked her, do you think it would be a good idea for me to date a single mom? And at first she was like giving me the blue pill answer, like, well, if you like her and you guys got this. I said, Mom. And eventually I got her to basically be honest and say it's not a good idea. But we're having this conversation when I'm in like my late 20s or something, and it's like these are things that she should have been teaching me and telling me as a teenager. And what we've noticed that a lot of guys have had to resort to, these like surrogate father figures online, like Andrew Tate or Alpha Male Strategies, Coach Greg Adams, Kevin Samuels, because a lot of us, we were not taught different things about, dealing with women, how to attract them, what to look out for, how to do this. We aren't taught. It's just kind of like, at best you get, don't go out there and get your girl pregnant. That's the best you get. But he goes on, I remember when I was in high school, I told my mom that I had this crush on a girl. Bruh, she beat the shit out of me and told me I was only supposed to be focusing in school. Later on, as an adult, my mom and father is furious that I never have a girlfriend, and my father only think I'm a disappointment because I cannot get a girlfriend. So I'm socially awkward towards women. Though Khalil is traumatized, bruh. That's some traumatizing shit, to have that kind of reaction as you, like I said, you're going through puberty now, you're starting to be attracted to girls, and you don't know how to quite deal with those feelings and how to deal with girls, and then you want to express that to your parents, but they might react that way. Now that's kind of extreme, like, Lord. Usually girls tend to get the most pushback when they start going through puberty, because I think that is a higher concern there in terms of girls making the right decision. But yeah, that's very unfortunate for our friend Khalil here. That's some traumatizing type of abuse to deal with, and then to be mad later on when when he ain't got no hoes. And then what Vox down there says, that sucks, man. Breaks my heart to hear stuff like that. I recommend, if you have resources, getting some therapy. Work through your self-worth issues and ignore your parents. They didn't seem to be particularly skillful or helpful. Yeah, man, I know therapy kind of seems like a joke these days, but a situation like that, yeah, you probably need some therapy. That's some serious trauma right there. I didn't have it that bad, but my mom was more like just not involved. We really didn't have those types of conversations and whatnot, to be fair. And so all I do is me says, bro, you are smart. I can tell by the way you communicate. Take it as someone who is closer to 40 and has experience with women. Get in the gym, exercise, spend 3 to 6 months improving your physique, and it will make a world of difference. I also suggest that if you have the money, learn a martial arts difference. But man, like I said before, I've been on my fitness journey for years, dude. I'm certified at this point. I'm certified at this point. I've had enough people compliment me on my body and my fitness and whatnot to know, man, I put the work in. I've done that. Like I said, man, it's not enough. It's not enough for girls to just be like, ooh, and I, and all that. I don't know. I don't think that being fit is really as important as people make it out to be. I would say probably being taller has more of an effect. Having more money is going to be more important. I don't think being fit and in shape is as vital as what people make it out to be. Now, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I never did it to attract women. I did it for myself, and I fell in love with it. I just got back from the gym. I killed myself in the gym today. I was drenched in sweat. I was looking crazy. I only stopped because I started getting cramps in my stomach. But I love working out, so don't get it twisted. But man, I'm just saying, just from my experience, I have, at best, there have been girls like cashiers who see me like running, like they recognize me. Like, aren't you that guy that I've seen running down the street? Jogging around the city. It's like, oh yeah, that's at best the most I've got. But most girls, again, they seem to not give a fuck. But still, I love working out. So I think that's good advice regardless of what your goals happen to be. And so Ivory Clan says, I was a nerdy guy who grew up in the South. Leave. Southerns in rural areas are too normal. I'm so happy I left. The world opened up once I moved. I was always a smooth talker, so luckily my looks caught up a bit. Now I'm in North Carolina. Is that considered the South? It's not South Carolina. It's I guess I'm kind of like in that in-between zone, but I don't know. I guess like because Georgia and Atlanta really ain't that far from where I'm at. But I'm thinking like what he's saying is that maybe I would do better in like a more like liberal, like leftist type of city, maybe LA or something like that. I don't know. But I never saw myself as being like in the deep South because I'm in North Carolina, but maybe, I don't know, maybe it's close enough. I did have a few people mistake and think that I was from up north though. And now that I think about it, my mom is actually from Bridgeport, Connecticut. That's where she was from as a kid, but they moved down here to North Carolina. So I don't know, maybe I got some of that influence and I just didn't even realize it. But I don't know. Then Nicholas says, where'd you move to? And then Ivory says Miami, and then later LA. And then Green Mouse says, I don't know, man. I haven't met too many nerdy guys who are smooth talkers. And then Ivory says, nerdy in hobbies, not in mannerism. Well, you know, being a nerd doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be socially awkward. You can be a nerd about anything. You can be a nerd about cars. You can be a nerd about insects and animals. You can be a nerd about space. You can be a nerd about being a nerd can apply to a lot of different. You could be a goddamn fitness nerd, you know, to be honest. And so it doesn't mean that you got to necessarily be like socially awkward. You know, even myself, I think the way I communicate and deal with people does tend to be kind of awkward because I can be very extra at times, to be fair. But at the same time, I think that like I'm the type of person where because I'm so comfortable being myself that I can really how do I put it? Like I can make people laugh and have a good time and just like easily just start having fun with people. That's one of like my upsides in terms of being a more like quirky, weird guy. Because I'm so embracing of who I am, I can have a lot of fun with people because of that. Because I know how to like snap and get out of my shell in an instant. And the remix says, can't make this up, just totaling herself by saying looks caught up. Is looks the affects your success with method you do? Sure, if you are a nerd and join book club, you will compete with other nerds if a girl likes nerds. Thing is that nerds are in low demand. That's true. You moving from South is just putting yourself in an environment where you can beat the competition and are in demand. Stop acting like you were some genius guru. I think he is giving some solid advice, but you know, again, I think even though he claims to be nerdy, which I'm sure is true, like I said, some nerdy guys do have decent social skills or at least some type of like social talents that might differ. I think with the subject of this video, we're thinking about incels and the worst of the worst. And like I said, decrepit, you know, but some guys can be nerdy and weird and find a way to make it work for them. Like one of my friends, I mean, this guy, like he's nerdy, but he's also like a crazy street motherfucker that's been in the prison and shit. So you know, make of that what you will, but he finds a way to deal with people as fucking insane as he is. And so Star Proxy says, you don't have to change your swag or goofiness for anyone. There are plenty of girls that enjoy a funny man. Being funny is attractive and works in your favor, and mate selection is really hard in general. Yes. It's meant to be discriminatory because nobody wants to settle with the wrong person. So many people have already been in multiple relationships. But if you think about it, how many times do people end up breaking up? You just save yourself heartache, be patient, and be genuine, and you will find your person sending love your way. That's a great message. But yeah, you know, one thing that I remember that the girl at the gym told me, and I think that this is so true. She said something like, dating is so much harder when you have morals and standards. And when I look back, it's not like I never had opportunities to lose my virginity or get a girlfriend. I just think that those opportunities that I did have, rare as they might be, it was never the right opportunity. And I've always been somebody that at least, you know, had standards, because I understood that just having sex or being in a relationship for the sake of it is not very smart. You got to choose the right person, or you could introduce somebody into your life that's going to be a negative instead of a positive. And like, you know, I've told this story a bunch, but that story about the girl that was coming on to me but she was already talking to one of my friends, and I knew that was just drama waiting to happen. And it's like, when you think about it, how many guys would have said, fuck that nigga, I'm fucking his bitch, right? That's normal. It's normal for guys to do shit like that. It's normal for guys to have sex with a girl they're not really physically attracted to just because they want some quick, easy sex. It's normal for guys to date women who got bad attitudes or not of good character. It's normal for guys to date women who already have kids or a crazy boyfriend or something. That's the normal shit. When you start having standards and when you look at it from that perspective of like, it's not enough to have sex, it's got to be the right person, that changes a lot. that change, and that's a big part of the reason why I just don't worry about it. Because if it was just about sex, I could pull that off if I just desperately and aggressively went after it. But when I take into consideration like the chances of me finding like the right person, man, I gotta be honest, I don't have a lot of hope. And then Ultimate Trish says, yes, this right here, bro seems very set in his idea that his personality or self is the problem. But the problem is just that the people he's surrounded by do not like his personality. And it's giving him a lot of insecurity because people are not on the same wavelength as him. I think that's true more so in regards to like girls. I do have like some guy friends and one lady friend, not a girlfriend, lady friend. But it's not like I haven't met people that I get along with or that, like me and that I'm friends with. But I just think as far as like dealing with girls, that's where I feel the most like disconnect and separation. Because the way you deal with your friends is completely different from how you deal with girls. Girls look at you and hold you to a whole different standard as opposed to your guy friends. Your guy friends and whatnot, like they might not care how you dress or that you're goofy, but a girl, now it matters because she's comparing you to other guys and how they dress and what they have and things like that. She's thinking about it in terms of, do I want to be seen with this weird ass nigga and shit like that. But I don't want to make it seem like I ain't got no friends and nobody at all likes me. Man, and to be honest, like I said, like I've had a lot of great interactions with people, whether it's the few close friends that I have, family, and even strangers. Whenever I meet people that I resonate with, that I vibe with, it's so awesome. When you're being yourself and you see people respond to you in a positive way, it feels so good. I just noticed that it just doesn't seem to work with girls. That's just what it seems like to me. It just doesn't seem to work with girls. But a lot of strangers find my energy and my personality to be like fascinating and endearing and whatnot. And then Star responds, as an outcast who has been bullied all throughout school, I completely understand this on the spiritual level. Spiritual. Sometimes we live in towns and cities that harbor a vast amount of intense ignorance, but never give up on love. It will come when you least expect it. Patience is a virtue. Yeah, it's never been a priority for me. I wouldn't say that I've given up. I just don't make it a priority because, just be honest, I don't have a lot of hope that I'm going to be able to find the right person. It is what it is. And I don't really think I need it to be happy anyway. But I do appreciate the giving hope from you guys. But, if it happens, it happens. That's cool, but we'll see. And then Koana says jester maxing. Now, I'm not jester maxing because that don't work. I'm just being myself. And then Trish responds again, yep, you just can't become bitter because of it or make people not want to be around you. And that's so true. I think that's one of the big differences between me and a lot of the Blackcels that I kind of studied and looked into, like Kent and whatnot. Those guys, they were very negative and pessimistic about themselves and their situation. And to be honest, it'll be very hard to hang around people like that. But with me, I just think I'm very different because it's like I recognize those aspects of myself that girls didn't like. And I just said, fuck it. I embraced it. I ran with it. Right? I doubled down. And I found happiness regardless of that. And, anybody that's been following my channel, they know that, I'm a very positive and happy person, despite what for most guys would be considered like a big void, to have never had a girlfriend, to have never had sex. I still found a way to be happy despite that. And I think that's why, for me, people still tend to like me and get along with me, because overall I'm a positive and higher vibration type of person, regardless of being a weirdo, nerd, goofy guy. And Melvon Johnson says, bro, be yourself. Don't change for anybody. If a woman can't accept you for who you truly are as a person, then they are not for you. I just hate the fact that people, especially our own women, to think all black men supposed to act, talk, and dress the same, hood, urban way. We are monolithic and we are liberated to do as we please. So many of them have an enslaved mentality. That's why you have all these older black men still dressing like they're in high school, because they figure that's how you're supposed to dress to be respected in the black community or to get women. So again, great message. Be your motherfucking self. Be yourself. If people don't like you, fuck them up the wall. That's Bernie Mac, House Party 3. But yeah, man, that's the thing, man. Is what bothers me is when people will, like, on some level, they have internalized and believe that it's important for you to be yourself. But whenever you step outside of like the range of what's acceptable or what's cool, then they try to like reel you back into what they want you to be or what they expect you to be. And a lot of times I think people mean well, but I think for me, I'm just, man, I live and die by this shit. I really live and like, man, like, that's one of my top principles. And I remember, like, me and my friend, we were having this conversation and about me and the way that I am and being myself. And he was like, yeah, girls not gonna like you, but guys might not respect you either. And I thought about that and I'm like, dude, fuck them niggas. Because the thing is, I'm not living for them. I'm not living for them motherfuckers. I'm living for me and the people that fuck with me. And it's always kind of disappointing to me, and I get it. But even like when I feel like my friends, like, they're trying to get me to be a certain way because of the problems that they recognize that come with me being the way that I am. And I think there's a misunderstanding of how much I don't give a fuck about what somebody else is going to think of me, and I hate to say it, but maybe because that's what they do. I think some of the people that I know, they change and they try to fit in and whatnot, and they, and that's them. But man, I'm telling you, I stand on this shit. I stand on being Emmanuel Chad Marco Jenkins 100%, bro. And whatever come with it, come with it. And so Wesley Chrisman says Ron Willis said it best. Shout out to Ron Willis, by the way. I know exactly who he's talking about. Ron Willis is an older black gentleman who gives like a lot of good advice in regards to, self-development as a man, dealing with women, but also, just cultivating your masculinity. He's a man of principle and makes a lot of like good content that's geared towards like young black men Definitely recommend him for, like I said, young black people like ourselves. But I continue. Find women in your tribe. Not all women want SoundCloud rappers and trappers. Get into boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai, etc. Develop your masculine confidence. Fine tune your craft and skill sets. I think if you fall into the right crowds, you could do very well. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that Ron Willis talks about. Find your tribe, which is basically like find out where you fit in, get in where you fit in. And I think that's in line with, the advice that other people have given me in terms of like, again, you got to get out of the city. You need to go somewhere else. That's really all they're saying. Is find the place where you fit in. Find out where what you do is cool and it works. And, I think because in, recent years, getting a job, getting a car, it's allowed me to kind of just branch out. It's allowed me to branch out a bit more. And that's one of the things that I'm definitely putting effort into. I plan on maybe going to an anime con or something like that. Traveling to another part of the state, maybe going like a road trip or something like that. So definitely something that I'm not doing it for the express purpose of trying to, get a girlfriend. I'm really doing it for me and my own self-development and just trying to gain more experience as a man. Because again, I've been so introverted and in my own zone, in my own world. And I think it would just be, it would be unfortunate not to really branch out and expand my horizons as well as my potential by getting outside of my comfort zone. So for me, it's not really about trying to get women. But I ain't gonna complain if that come with it. But also develop your masculine confidence. I think that's important too, because, I know that I talk a lot about, being the goofy fun guy, but at the same time, I also recognize that, I still needed to cultivate my masculinity. I think that was also very important. And I think obviously with my fitness and whatnot, that was a part of that. But, it's one of those things where like, it's so many different ways, that you can do that. You can do it through fitness, learning how to fight, learning about cars, learning how to fix stuff. Like I just bought a toolbox and a couple tools. So I'm gonna start doing different stuff around the house. So that's another big one that I think, like for nerdy guys in particular, don't be too stuck in just like your limited range of interest. Just try to cultivate and grow your masculinity and your confidence, because it will make you a more well-rounded man. And you can do that while still being true to who you are. In fact, it's funny because for my fitness journey, a lot of my inspiration came from like watching anime and whatnot, watching Dragon Ball Z and seeing like how hard they would train before a fight, seeing, watching Hajime no Ippo. Like one thing that I picked up for anime was the importance of like pushing yourself in preparation and training. And that's one of the things that motivated me to get into fitness. And so again, it's one of those things where it's like my nerdy hobby ended up being an inspiration for me to cultivate masculinity through another hobby, which is working out in fitness. And some people, they take that, they might watch Hajime no Ippo and start boxing, or, Baki the Grappler and learn jiu-jitsu. So again, man, just good idea for nerdy guys, again, to make yourself a bit more well-rounded. And then Fugati says, yeah, but women must find you attractive though. Yes, Fugati. True. And then, but Whatbot says, if you think you're ugly and are unwilling to do anything to change that, you stay at incel. Barring some physical deformity, any man, women too, can get themselves up to a 7. Whoa. Whoa, we gotta stop you there. Wesley Kreisman's advice is solid as well. The right boxing martial arts class will change your life for the better. If you don't want to do a martial art, make sure you exercise. Being in shape will make you feel good and eventually look better. All of that will increase your confidence. Once you have that don't give a fuck confidence without being a complete jerk, you will do better with women. Now, I can attest to most of what he said, other than doing better with women. I'm telling you, it ain't done shit for me in terms of getting pussy, but mentally, like, your mental health improves, because it's, you feel good in your body, you feel good in your mind. And I noticed, like, if I miss 2 or 3 days of working out, I don't feel the same. I don't feel like that same, like, purity in my body, that clarity in my mind. So fitness, man, I just think is big for anybody. And again, just for the nerdy, goofy guys out there, just make sure you get into something to make yourself more well-rounded, because it might not help you get bitches, but at least you'll feel better about yourself. And, just the way you move about in the world will become a lot better and a lot easier for you. And so Pretty Little Reality says, I used to be a female nerd and was homeschooled growing up. So I had a similar experience, to be honest, but I ended up changing my look, and it showed me everyone cares about looks. Now I have a channel dedicated to it. So I saw this and I looked at her channel briefly. I'm gonna watch some of the videos later, but this will be somebody that'll be interesting to maybe do a interview with or talk to, because she seems like a girl that's like red pill or black pill, if you will, on looks, because that's kind of an interesting experience, as a female nerd, and then you start getting more into like making yourself, I guess, prettier and whatnot, and then you notice a lot more attention from guys and people treating you differently. Because I've heard of similar stories from guys that might have been fat or overweight, and then they get in the gym, lose weight, and all of a sudden people are treating them differently. It does kind of make you realize the importance of looks and whatnot. And then she said it makes you resent people, not gonna lie. And Michael Regis says, why I be seeing you in all these channels that I just discovered, bruh. And then Henso Kira says, appearances is nothing compared to true feelings, but I'm not saying that appearance is not a big thing. And then she says, it's a huge deal. It is though, man. I'm telling you, looks are very, very important. I mean, it's just one of those things, man. Looks are very important in life. You got the right look, I mean, it can completely change your trajectory and the type of access to things that you have in life. I know a lot of guys have a lot to say about like dating not being worth it, and guys want to go their own way and whatnot. I'm one of them, but I think for the guys who are very attractive or really attractive, for them, dating is going to be worth it because it's going to be a lot easier for them. It's going to be easier. Women are going to be more submissive to them. Women are going to make it easier for them to, poke. They're going to have access to higher quality women. Like and then for women, in terms of like the type of men they can attract, and then men wanting to spend money on them and buy them stuff, flying them out and paying their bills and shit like that. It's, man. And but then he responds and says, but personality is a better thing to focus on. She may be pretty like she was made by God himself, but still be a hoe that would never stop being a hoe. I mean, I see what you're saying, but man, hoes got it made. Because like I said, a lot of guys, they'll look past that shit. Because how many guys are really gonna pass up on a good looking girl because she doesn't have the right personality? You gotta think about that shit, man. Like, really, for girls, having personality and character is not nearly as important as it is for us guys. So girls can really get away with that shit. I still think girls should focus on that and work on that. But let's be honest, man, like as long as a woman got the right look, she can have a lot of problems. She can have kids, she can have a bad attitude, she can have an STD, but if she got the right look, then damn, she gonna still have good options. And then AD64 says, it's messed up because race makes it worse. Even a pretty black woman is still seen as less than an average white girl. Well, it depends on taste, because you do have black guys that like really, really love black women, and I wasn't always like that, but I don't know, I must have bumped my head or something. But I've been really into black girls recently. Like you have those Dr. Umar type niggas that only want black women. But when you look at stuff like dating app stats and things like that, like black men and black women sometimes, or a lot of times, tend to be like the least responded to when we try to engage with people of other races. But yeah, I think in general, white women do tend to be pedestalized more so than black women, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Oh shit, did I fuck something up? Turn up water and energy drink. I'm not cool. Okay, Jalo of J says black women adore a goofy dude. Where you got? I don't know, man. I ain't seen it. And then Supanas says no, they don't. And then Lithium says stop the cap. Goofy, attractive dude. Hardly any woman does. He can't be goofy. He can't be goofy and unattractive. That's for damn sure. Stop lying to yourself. Yeah, man, I'm telling you, man. It's not the way. It's not the way. It's funny because I always remember this. My best friend, he goofy, but he only goofy around me because we kind of grew up together. I know him since like the 5th or 6th grade. And me and him, we are like linked in terms of like personality. But the difference is he's better at like being a chameleon, like fitting in with different groups of people. Like he knows how to turn the goofy down, especially around girls. And I remember one time we were hanging out in my house and we just being two goofy ass niggas, right? Joking and having fun. And then a girl called him, maybe his girlfriend. And then like, he was like, hello. Like, dude turned into Keith Sweat out of nowhere. I'm looking at this dude like, who are you? Right? But, man, I don't know. Like, but I will say this though. Whenever I did interact with a girl that I felt a vibe with, what's funny is that I'll be my goofy self, and it's like I'm having fun, but in the back of my mind, I'm looking at her like hold up. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like it seemed like I couldn't fuck up. And that's what was weird about it. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'll crank up the goofy and the weird twitchy shit, like just to fuck with people. And it's some scary shit when you turn it up and the person is still like, yep, that's okay. Even weirder, like whenever I meet somebody that's like weirder than me and I feel normal, Lord. But yeah, that's the interesting thing about it though. Like if to meet a girl and you're in your, having fun and whatnot, and she just completely receptive to it, very interesting. And so Melted Dark Chocolate says, it really depends. I don't really dress fashionably as well too. I had black men ignoring me because I don't dress like the typical black girls. And then Butterface Bree says, me too. If you don't fit the stereotypes, they don't want you. They really want the Insta baddies. Now, I don't like to downplay the struggles that women have when it comes to dating. But it's hard for me to take women seriously in these conversations because I feel like there's a big gap between the issues that we're dealing with. Because you look at Melted Dark Chocolate, you look at Butterface Brie, And they might have their problems, but it's not like they don't have any options. And this is what I always say, like for a guy like me and the Kents and Oreo Man and the weird guys, like what women have to understand, like the difference, like we don't have any options whatsoever. Like we have to fight and scratch and beg and purchase every crumb of pussy we can get. Men have to fight for every piece of pussy that we can get. And I think even with girls like yourself, maybe the guys you want aren't giving you the kind of attention that you desire, but it's definitely not a situation where you don't have options. Like if you go on a dating site or you make you go on Tinder, Hinge, what's the other one? Bumble, whatever the case may be, OK Cupid, Craigslist, Backpage. You're gonna get guys, you know, going to your DMs and things like that. Maybe in real life, because women tend to kind of wait for guys to make the first move, you could have an issue there. If you're not like a big booty, big butt type girl that, God, man, big asses just have ruined the lives of so many men. But, you know, if you're not one of those type of girls, okay. And then on top of that, just guys tending not to want to approach nowadays. But at the very least, come on, man. And then, you know, the accusation that we only want insta baddies. Maybe there's a certain type of guy, but that definitely ain't me or many of the guys that I know. When I think it's like the girls that I've been into so many mid bitches, right? I'm telling you, 4s and 5s and 6s, and really, in a way, mid girls have a unique appeal because the assumption that they're not going to be as high maintenance. Like when I see that big booty pretty girl, I assume, really I know, but I know they got a lot of guys chasing after them, a lot of guys in their DMs. They probably already got kids and a baby daddy and whatnot, because they're built for sex, you know. Not many women built like that make it to like their 20s and mid 20s and whatnot without kids. So it's like when I see those insta baddies, like in my mind, I assume that they're going to be more trouble than they're worth. And when I see mid girls, it's like, I could work with that. But Black Mojokin says, Cap, most guys know if you don't make a certain amount of money or you aren't an athlete, rapper, or something along those lines, you don't stand a chance. Guys just lust after them. Most guys aren't picky in comparison to women. And I agree. Yes, we like the insta baddies. We like the bad girls. We love it, right? But we're not crazy. We know that for the most part, we don't really have a realistic chance with those types of girls. Like those girls exist in a whole different world. I always remember that rant that Coach Greg Adams went on talking about like the 9s and the 10s and how they exist in a whole different world. It's like you see a really attractive woman, bro, it's like she doesn't exist in a vacuum. Like you're the first guy to lay eyes on her. Like she's just been hiding. And when you see girls like that, they are flooded with male attention. And I remember this story my friend told me when he was in college. There was like this really pretty stuck-up girl. And it seemed like no guy could really connect with her or get to her. But then this basketball player showed up. I think it was like John Wall or something. This was years ago. But there was like a basketball player that showed up. And it was like before he made it to the NBA. So he was visiting the college. And that same girl was like following him around. Like her energy was completely different. I always remember this story. But again, man, when you see girls like that, those are the type of guys that they have access to. I mean, I'm not saying it's an impossibility, but I wouldn't bet money on trying to get a girl like that or thinking they would like me. Um, but Bree responds and says, I've met guys in real life that refuse to date unless she's an 8 or up, or they put crazy high standards on you if you're not that. So I'm gonna take your word for it, but I would love to meet those guys and see who we're talking to. It can't be a nigga like me. It can't be like some average dude, bro. I'm not believing that. And then MXM says, in the library or club, this doesn't make sense at all. Y'all just want attention everywhere without putting effort in your appearance or your attitude. At the gym or rave, you could wear whatever, and if you're cool to approach and not ugly or fat, guys will strike a conversation. Now, again, these days, a lot of guys don't want to approach. I think approaches are down, they're plummeting. So girls might be having a bit more trouble, to be fair. But again, the idea that there are any decent looking women that don't have options, I would never believe it. You would never get me to believe you would never get me to believe that shit, bro. And then Treble says, I can understand your experience and I'm sorry that happened. Just know for some of us guys, we've been looking for a girl next door type of woman, but they want black and Asian. Man, yeah, the girl next door type is I think, I wouldn't say ideal, but I think for a lot of guys, they want that because they seem like less high maintenance, you know? And but even those girls are in high demand because of that. Like the girl at the gym, she told me a lot of guys assume that she's a girl next door virgin type, and it ain't the case. It ain't the case. But I was kind of surprised at the amount of like male attention that she would get, because she definitely wasn't an insta baddie or anything like that. And then melted dark chocolate again. Here she says, I mean, what type of goofy do you mean? Everyone can be goofy, but there's a difference between someone who lacks basic social cues and someone who's funny. Because everyone wants to be goofy until it's time to be serious or normal, and suddenly that doesn't turn off, like at all, like grow up. So with goofy, I mean, it depends, because obviously in the black community, goofy has kind of been used as an insult nowadays anyway. But for me, when I say goofy, it really depends on how the person interprets it. You know, my goofiness has been seen as being endearing. I don't really have trouble making people laugh, so you can say goofy in like the ha funny way as well. But I think it's interesting that in saying goofy, she connected that to like lack of basic social cues and whatnot, because I think that's in line with how goofy is kind of used as an insult, is to assume that you're like socially awkward and whatnot. Now, I'll be honest, I do think I'm a bit socially, like, I don't know, it's weird. Like the way I interact with people, it's not normal a lot of times. But I make it work. I'll put it like that. But again, man, now we're going back to the original conversation of like being yourself. You know, is it that we're going to be ourselves, or are we going to be quote unquote normal? That's what I'm saying. It's like, if we're all trying to fit in this box of normality, then why do we tell people to be themselves? Because if people are going to be themselves, that means that some people are not going to fit into that box of normal. So if anybody wants to criticize me for that, then that's fine. But like I said, I stand on that shit. You know, if I'm not normal or fit in the way that people expect me to, then that's just what it is. But I don't look at it in terms of like, because again, when you say something like grow up, I don't look at it as like a issue of immaturity either. You know, when I look at like certain moments in my life where I've done things that other people might not have done, like moments that really matter. Like, just for instance, it's kind of a crazy situation, but when my dog died, and somebody had called me and told me where he was at. And so my mom drove me over there to go pick up his dead body. And I had to go out there and scrape my dog off the goddamn sidewalk and put him in the car. And I remember my mom, she looked at me and she said, you're a tough man. Because I happened to confront the tragedy of that. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that I think when I say goofy, it's not like that's the totality of who I am. You know, there are a lot of situations where I did the right thing or I did something that somebody else might not have done. And I think that's really where I prove myself in terms of like my maturity and my character. So being goofy doesn't mean that you don't have character. It doesn't mean that you can't do the right thing or you can't do things that are impressive that other people might not do. So it's like, yeah, somebody else might be more stoic and serious or normal than I am. But what about the important decisions that they make on a day-to-day basis? Do they take good care of their body? Do they try to eat healthy? Are they kind and respectful to other people? You know, do they stay on the right side of the law? You know, so again, it's like people are to judge somebody just based on that one thing. I just think it's an inaccurate perception of the person as a whole. So I think, yeah, you can be goofy and be a grown up. I think the main thing about it though is about the most important moments and how you handle those. And so Breast 4000 says, there's a time to be serious and times it's okay to be funny. But I've noticed women tend to think we know when it's the right time. For example, we should relax on date going out, but she may want us to be funny one night and other wants to appear more mature and doesn't want us to crack a joke. Obviously, you don't act goofy when you get a call that someone is in the hospital, but how about while watching a movie at home? It depends on what she wants at a particular time. And see, and I talked about that before, you know, trying to find that sweet spot, you know, or we were on a date, but he was too goofy or he was too sick. That's why I just say, fuck that. I don't try to hit the sweet spot. I do what I want to do. I be myself. And if you don't like it, if you don't like the vibe, if you don't like the goof, then to me, I just take that as a sign that we're not compatible. You know, that's how I look. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try to fit myself or find that perfect balance for the sake of a woman. Just being honest, you know, I'm gonna be myself. And if you like, you know, how I roll and how I carry myself and the moments where I'm serious versus when I'm just having fun and being goofy or whatever, then that's fine. But like I said, I'm not good. I would never stress myself out worrying about some shit like that. But then he said, obviously you don't act goofy when you get a call that someone is in the hospital. And see, this is the other thing though about the whole goofy shit. On a daily basis, what are you doing that's so serious to where you can't have fun and joke and laugh? How many days out of the week are you getting a call that somebody died or you're scraping your dog off the goddamn sidewalk? You know, it's like my average day, I wake up. If it's a work day, I go to work. I can chit chat, have fun, joke with my coworkers, but I get the job done, right? So I'm having fun, but not at the expense of my work. I go home or maybe I go to the gym and I'm in there getting it in. You know, I go back home, talk to my family, whatever, maybe hang out with a friend, stream, whatever the case may be. But what I'm saying is, again, on a daily basis, what are we doing to where you can't smile and crack a joke and have fun? Are we in the trenches of Afghanistan? Like, what are we doing? And that's why I gotta be honest. I feel like Melted Dark Chocolate is one of those girls that just don't like goofy. And I think that's why she said it like that. I think she really just don't like goofy guys. Because realistically, what are we doing to where we can't have fun and be goofy on a regular basis? What the hell is so serious going on for that to even be the case? And Gas von Berlingen, German. Goofy today just means square or lame. If you don't conform, you get labeled as goofy, which is true. I think it's because if you are in the streets, everything is serious in the streets. Everything can be life or death. So when you come around, if you are not trying to fit in, then you're being goofy, because fitting in is survival in the hood. And that's so true. That's so, because you gotta think, it's like if you go to jail or you go to prison and you like a goofy guy, you're gonna be a target, right? Motherfuckers will want to stab you, fight you, steal from you, take your manhood. And I think there has always been a link between like prison mentality and street mentality. And I think one of the things about being like in the streets is that your reputation is everything. So I think a lot of guys, they act tough. They act hard, and I think that comes with a certain level of like carrying yourself in a very serious way, you know. And that's just not the type of person that I am. But like I said, I think that's why the goofy archetype is so problematic in the black community, because the street guy, the thug, is put on such a pedestal, and that's basically like the opposite of the goofy. Because the street guy gotta be, you know, 10 tones down. I'm hard. I'm tough. Don't disrespect me. Don't fuck with me. Yo, nigga, I'll kill your ass. Like that. You know, and not being that, again, it's people, they'll look at you different. But I think that's where that comes from. Because you're in an environment where out of necessity, you know, you gotta kind of watch your back. And you gotta protect your reputation, and like perception is everything. Now the thing about me, I think that helped me a lot. When I was in school, I was more of a target for bullying and whatnot. But as I got older and started getting into fitness and working out, really, like that changed my whole aura. So even though I'm still like the same me, my body kind of speaks for itself. You can look at me and you can tell that I'm not an easy target. So I don't really have those problems anymore, because people look at me and be like, oh, he's in good shape. He must be this. He must be that. So that's why I say for guys like myself, you got to get into fitness, because it makes you more well-rounded, and it makes people less likely to target you and want to try you. Because a lot of times they're looking for weakness. And if you don't look weak, then they're not going to try to fuck with you. And so Tupac Machine, I love this name. He says, just stumbled upon your channel, enjoyed this perspective that is not often heard, appreciated your honesty and reflectiveness. Another layer I'll add is black men in the suburbs adopt the hood or athlete aesthetic to attract women of all races too. Although nerdy black guys do fare better, mostly due to the stereotype of hypermasculinity. Lastly, keep doing you. Can tell your self-awareness is strong. Such a trait would be attractive to those who can see it. And see, that's another thing, bro. Like, what I've noticed is that I can be myself. And yes, I'm kind of weird. I'm goof. I'm the goof. I got you. But I've noticed that people like Tupac Machine, they see beyond that. They don't just see that and think that's just who I am. They can, like, wait a minute. Like, I always remember I was kicking it in the hood years ago. And I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of uncomfortable because I was hanging out with somebody else, and this was like his little area. And I feel like a fish out of water. And there was this drunk guy like walking around. And we were all like kind of just talking and whatnot. He stopped out of nowhere. He looked at me. He said, "Bro, you smart. I can tell you smart." And I was, you know, I'm like, okay. But just like this guy here, I've just noticed like even when you're being yourself and you might not be like that stereotypical cool guy, in the right moment, people will see the finer aspects of your character. Another example, at work, I know people look at me like, you know, he's kind of weird, but my work ethic shines. The fact that I show up on time every day, that I always stay to help if there's extra work that needs to be done. You know, I never leave till the job is done. I go above and beyond. And I remember my manager, he told me that I got a raise. And he pulled me to the side and he said, you know, it's people that come in here and they're expendable. To just be honest with you. But you, no matter what, if you ever need a job, you got one here. And like I said, it's moments like that that always remind me that it's okay to be who I am. Because as long as I be myself, but I combine that with, you know, trying to do a good job, trying to do the best at everything that I try to do, whether it's music, streaming, vlogging, working out, whatever the case may be, people are going to see that. Yeah, they're going to see, okay, he's kind of goofy and weird, but wait a minute. It's something more to this guy. Wait a minute. Like, how did he do it? Oh, wait. Yeah, I like this motherfucker. Right? And like, that's why I really appreciate this comment. Because again, some people, they can see beyond just the surface level of how I express myself. And they can see like the depth beneath that, you know, and I really appreciate that. And so Pretty Boy Red says, I low-key think being charming is just you being goofy, but you're good looking. I don't know though. I don't know. Charming. You know what's funny? Kayla's mom said I was charming. I remember too. Oh man. I ran into Kayla in the grocery store and she was on the phone with her mom. And I grabbed her phone and, you know, I gave her the Chad Marco Experience. I was like, hello. We talked a little bit. I gave Kayla the phone back and her mom said he's very charming. So, I don't know. It might be some truth to that. But Ivory says it's not. JT says it's not. And then he says, you guys need help. Be funny. Don't be goofy. Now that's a conversation of itself though. But and this is the thing. It was like when you say goofy, what do you mean? Are you saying goofy to insult? Or because goofy can mean funny. Because even though I've been called goofy and I put myself in that category, man, I have people dying laughing. Like I don't know if you guys notice, but when I do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre streams, I be on voice chat, and I've had like so many people tell me like, bro, like you're funny as fuck. I found your social media. I had people find my fucking YouTube channel just because they heard me on the goddamn mic playing the game. So again, man, it's like I get what he's trying to say. But I feel like at the same time, we're making that same mistake of trying to put people in this box. Like to me, it feel like you're saying like be goofy but be cool about it. But it's like no. It doesn't always work like that. You know, I think you can be goofy and you can be funny. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. I just think a lot of it has to do with how much that word has been used for insults, you know. But I think you can be goofy and people still like you, people still respect you and fuck with you and you're funny. It's not that big of a difference. I think that we're looking at it like the goofy, like, this nigga ain't funny. Right? I think we're looking at it like that. But I'm expressing it more in like the way that has worked for me, in terms of like, you know, at least being able to connect with the people that I have. PlayStation Games All Day says, you're better off being this way, bro. It's better to be yourself versus changing your entire personality and appearance for someone else's approval, which will lead to resentment in the long run. And, you know, people wonder why I'm so happy. Like, and you can tell, you know, some people have questioned my happiness, but come on. This whole video, like, my energy has been up here, bro. And this shit is real. But I think so much of it is just the fact that I've always prioritized being myself. Like, I think it's some cosmic spiritual level shit. I'm being honest. I think when you run away from who you are to fit in, you're running away from your destiny. There are energies and wavelengths and vibrations that are going on around us. And if you're not in tune with that shit, things are going to be off. And I have to attribute so much of why I love myself so much and why I love my life so much to the fact that I embraced who I am, and I embrace the path that I have to walk in order to be myself, in order to be true to myself. So I'm in alignment with my destiny. I'm in alignment with my fate. I'm in alignment with the world. The people that don't like me, that I repelled with my energy and personality, we didn't belong together. Because I can act any way that I want to. But if I attract a woman acting not in accordance with who I really am, then now I have this person in my life and we're not really connected in a legitimate way. It's a fake relationship. The same thing with friends and family. When you stick to being yourself, the magic of it is that you repel who you're not compatible with and you attract who you are. And I think that's why a big part of the reason why I enjoy my life so much and why I love myself so much, because I'm in tune with my environment the way I'm supposed to. I've repelled what I was supposed to and attracted what I was supposed to. But when you're fake, when you're trying to be cool, oh, I can't be goofy. I better, you know, because you can act how you want to, but you are at the end of the day. And so you might make it work. You might play that chameleon role, but you're not really where you belong on the inside. And you find yourself with someone and you're like, God, why am I with this bitch? or why I'm hanging out with these niggas? You know, and yeah. And Dark Knight Wing says, smart guy, but also regret for not wanting to do what you wanted. And Melg says, but when you are true to yourself, people be like, not like that. That's what I'm saying. When you're true to yourself, people be like, not like that. And we got to stop that shit. We got to stop that. That's all I'm saying. We got to stop that. You know, don't be out here telling people to be themselves, but then you're like, wait, but you can't do that. You still got to be cool. You still got to be gangster. You still got to be normal. Like, no. No. If people are going to be themselves, then you have to accept that you're going to see a wide range of different personalities and interests and things. The real question is, do you accept the battles that come with that? Do you accept the pros and cons that come with that? That's the question for the individual. And then Ed LL says he's just coping. I don't know if he's talking about me, but I get that too. You know, some people feel like I'm not really happy. I'm really depressed and want to blow my brains out. But man, people can believe what they want to at this point. I don't really concern myself with people not believing in the juice. But that was the video. Again, I'm thankful for all you people for taking the time to check out that video. The Blackcel Experience. Again, man, I just think it's just so cool because, like I said in the beginning of the video, you know, we have all these different perspectives of people, men and women, who have dealt with, you know, the issues of trying to fit in the Black community as someone who's not really, you know, who doesn't fit into like the stereotype of what you're expected to be. And we've all kind of dealt with it to, you know, varying degrees. But the point is, we've all experienced it in one way or another. And I didn't expect to get this amount of feedback. But, you know, as far as like my channel is concerned, that's always been the beauty of it. And what I've learned about life is that when you express these things, when you express these unique, offbeat kind of life experiences, you'll be surprised how many people can relate to you and resonate with what you're talking about. Maybe not a 100%, but you know, they have their own experience to where they can say, okay, I understand that, but I think this, and this is what I had to go, this is how I dealt with it and whatnot. That's really the beauty of, you know, again, this video here, and how it's kind of connected all of us to have this conversation. I know I'm the star of the show, but I feel like we've all made a positive contribution to the conversation and the topic, and I really appreciate that from you guys. So make sure you guys like the video and subscribe if you dig it, and I will see you guys on the next video. So, Johnny.